Hey everyone, it's Frederick Kramer here, and I wanted to shoot a quick video for you today after I had some downtime for a few weeks, days, I don't know exactly actually. But the topic of this video is because a lot of people have been asking me how is it actually possible to predictably book hundreds of appointments per month? And this video I want to give a very short breakdown, 5 to 10 minutes, how we actually do it and how it is actually possible and how everyone can do it as well. And I just prepared this beautiful Google Doc here, so I just wanted to walk you through that. And yeah, I would say let's get started right into that, because it's of course quite good, because when you have a system that predictably books you hundreds of calls a month, starting with dozens of course, you can just go on sales calls, you can have a lot of sales practice, you can see how it works for you, you can see how you get better, and you just have something that you can build off of. And when you have sales calls coming in predictably, at some point you'll just have sales predictably, and they'll just mean you can rely on making an extra 50k next month, 100k next month, depending on how much this is scaled, of course. And you can also outsource this and everything like that. I'm going to talk about this right now. And the specific number I want to refer to here is just 180 appointments. But of course, it can also be 800 appointments. It just depends on how much you scale it. And I'm going to explain it right now. So we're going to start with the maths, just to understand the causality and what's actually going on here. And I'll actually do this a bit bigger here. Okay. So what we need to understand is the amount of booked calls that we get, because it's just about getting more calls in the calendar, right? Show rate, different thing. But regarding the booked calls, the more volume that you send, so the more messages you send, the more calls, the more videos you make, the more calls you're generally going to book, right? And the next thing is the appointment booking rate of that. So per volume that you send out, how many calls do you actually get booked in? So for example, 500 cold emails with a 2% appointment booking rate will lead to 10 bookings, right? So in order to get more booked calls, we need to improve the volume and we need to improve the actual appointment booking rate. So ABR stands for appointment booking rate, right? And the rest of this video is just going to be about how you can actually do that, right? So what's the actual process, right? And the process, of course, depends on the platform, what you do. And I want to quickly touch on something here, which is outbound versus inbound versus paid. Which one of these is the most beneficial for you actually depends on where your agency is at right now. When you are not making 10k a month, signing multiple clients, you're not having a proven sales conversion rate, neither inbound nor paid is going to make that much sense for you. Because paid, basically running ads, doesn't make that much sense if your sales conversion rate is bad and you're potentially making negative profit, and you're not in a place right now where you can lose hundreds of dollars each and every day on ads, right? So paid is just, it's a good way to scale, but it's not a good way to start when you don't actually have everything else set up, including your service delivery as well, right? So when you want to get started with paid, you should be at least at 10k per month, right? Next thing is inbound, and the difference between inbound and outbound, apart from the obvious things, is that inbound just takes way longer to build, and outbound is very quick and very easy to build. Inbound is just, of course, reaps a longer term benefit from that and is a lot more powerful, and it makes sales easier. But when you actually want to get started, you want to do outbound. And the reason why you want to do that, like I said, is because it works way quicker, and it's just you can get an outbound system set up within 2 months. The time it takes you usually on average to get an inbound channel set up can take 1 to 2 years, right? And when you have outbound working, you can start filling in the reps and stuff like that, of course. And when you have everything going, of course, you want to have a combination of all 3 of those just to make everything completely stable, okay? But now when we want to do outbound, the question becomes, what do we actually, what platform do we use, right? And the main 3 platforms that we can use, and of course, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. are platforms technically, but the main methods are cold calling, cold email, or cold DM. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of any other things you could be doing. Of course, you could send some actual mail to some people or something, but we want to keep it simple here, right? And just to quickly show you how the process is looking like, whatever you pick, depends on the niche, by the way, but that's a different, I could make it actually a different video on that. But when you're doing cold calling, the process is basically you dial the number, they accept the call or they don't. You talk to the owner or you don't, whether you can make it through to the owner or not. Then they're interested or not, and then they book a call or not, right? So dial the number, accept, owner, interested, booked is the process for cold calling. cold DM and cold email are very similar. So you send the message, it actually lands in their inbox, whether it's on Instagram or on email. So just their inbox, right? Then they sort of like, the people actually recognize that you sent them something. So they open the message or they read the message and interact with that. So they basically even see what's going on there. Then they're either interested or not. And then they engage further and they can book a call, right? And the reason why this is important is because it makes it a lot easier to establish the appointment booking rate, which is exactly the next point, right? The next thing necessary after you understood the process and you know how the math is working out is that you want to establish a proof of concept. And what that means is that when you have proof of concept, then you have a trajectory where what you've done already works enough with enough, like high enough profit margins, a high enough appointment booking rate, that you know when I do this in the future, it's going to happen again, right? And what we want to do here, first of all, is we're going to get the appointment booking rate to like 2 to 3%. And sure, you can scale a system with less than that, but we're talking about actually booking hundreds of appointments, and a high appointment booking rate is going to make it so much easier when you actually scale, right? So we're going from maybe 0.2% to actually 3%, and you can see this is like just this thing can literally 15x the function of your actual system. And what you want to do in order to get the appointment booking rate right is, first of all, you want to find the actual variables, right? Because remember, we have this process here, and we're just going to go about cold DM right now. It will work similarly for cold calling and cold email as well. But let's say we have like cold DM right now. Then we have some things, some of your variables, things that you can control in the process that determines the difference in whether prospects actually go through these stages. So for example, if you send them a message that is straight up insulting them, then the conversion between they read the message and they're interested is way lower, of course, right? So there are variables on these arrows basically that you can manipulate, and then you can see whether the process is actually improving or whether it's getting worse. And because you can test and try and see what's going on there, you can actually improve the total outcome of the system, okay? So some example variables could be your account in like a cold DM example, like what content is on your account. If you have like an account and people are knowing you and you have like tons of case studies and you're like a Sam Ovens, you're like an Alex Hormozi, just having the account of Alex Hormozi is going to increase your appointment booking rate significantly. Of course, you don't need to be Alex Hormozi to book more appointments. The main thing that you just need to have is just you need to look professional, etc., 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 all these things, right? Make some content, maybe show the people that you know what you talked about, like I do right now, right? And then you want to have other variables could be the opener message, the message you send people when they engage with you, the Calendly link that you have. So maybe you have like a very bad calendar availability and you just don't have that much time to actually talk to people. That is going to decrease your appointment booking rate because people are less likely to find a time where they can actually book an appointment with you. And even if they would have the availability at a later point, there's still more friction for them to find a spot. And this is significantly, like it can literally double your appointment booking rate just by having twice as much availability, right? And of course your follow-up. So what you send them, how quickly you send them, how many you send them, like a lot of these things are also going to have an impact. And you need to become aware that, for example, your opener message cannot only have an impact on whether they are interested at this point, the opener message can also affect if they're going to book a call after they're interested, right? So maybe you have a very clickbaity opener message, but then the engaged message is showing them, oh, this guy's not actually offering me $1 million. It's going to significantly decrease this part here, and having a more effective opener message can decrease the total effectiveness of all the messages combined, okay? So this is very important to realize. A single variable is not determining, it's like just by improving this arrow, it doesn't mean you're not decreasing this arrow a lot, if that makes sense, right? And once you know all the variables, and these are of course just some of the variables, like there are probably like 20, 30 variables in total, and some of them belong to this stage, some of them belong to this, some of them to this one, etc. And once you have this, what you want to do is you want to pick the sub-conversion rates and also the KPI. So the KPI, key performance indicator, that I've just given for the appointment booking rate will be 2 to 3%. But between these stages, so between you actually like interacting with them and then booking a call, there are a lot of stages in between. And in this case, on social media, on cold DM, you would have things like, do they actually see the media? And then you'd have like a media seen rate, right? KPI will be 15 to 60%, depending on the platform. Then you'd have the positive reply rate. So when they actually see your messages, how much do they actually like show interest and show like some engagement there? And then specifically for cold DM, like it's the example, right? When they are interested, how much are they interested to talk further to you, right? Because you're not going to send them like a whole sales letter at the beginning. You're probably just going to ask them like, are you open to receiving something? When they say yes, are you open to get more clients, whatever? And then they say yes, and then you send them something because that makes them more likely to actually book a call and everything after that, right? Then it's basically calendar send rate is like how likely are they to want to talk to you? Then you send them a link, and then it goes over to the appointment booking rate. So how many people do actually book a call, if that makes sense, right? And once you have all these stages here, all you need to do is just shuffle around with your variables as much as you have to until you get these sub-metrics into KPI. Because when you have a good media seen rate, it's going to be way easier to get the positive reply rate into KPI. When you have a very good positive reply rate, it's going to be way easier to get the Calendly sent rate into KPI or whatever stages in between there. And when you have a good like Calendly sent rate, it's very easy to just have the appointment booking rate, right? So this is just to simplify the steps and to make it much more predictable and controllable as well. And once when you do these tests, you want to keep everything else in your test the same completely. So when you try to test out a different VSL, for example, you want to keep everything else the same so that when there's a difference, the difference can be tracked directly to the VSL and not to anything else. You just want to see, okay, this makes exactly that difference. So this was helpful, this was not helpful. And you just want to have everything very clean, because when you change two things at once and now everything is completely bad, you don't know if it was the message or the VSL or anything else when you change multiple things at once, right? Another thing is that you want to remember the latency. And what that means, is when you send a message today, it could be the case that they schedule a call after 4 months or something like that. And latency is really important because the metrics of what you send to people, let's say you run a test of like 100, like you send something to like 400 people, and maybe like 6 of them book a call after a week, which would be like 1.5% appointment booking rate. But then in like the 2 months after that, maybe another 6 people book a call. And actually you're at 3%, but you thought like, oh, this didn't work for me. Like it didn't get me the result. And actually it was really good, but it was just like more latency. And at the end, when you're just sending every day, or you have someone send for you every day, it doesn't matter whether the calls come in after 1 day or whether they come in after 3 months or something, because you're just getting the calls at some point, right? So you need to be very careful that you track your metric exactly, and that you know when you have sent a certain amount of messages, that you just keep tracking and keep seeing like, does someone actually book a call from these people that I just reached out to at November 12th or whatever date you have, right? And this is really, really crucial, and you should not be impatient, because sometimes it usually can just take like a month or 2 until you actually get the appointment, right? By the way, the closer you are to the beginning, the lower the latency is. So for example, from you sending to them like having it in their inbox is a very, very low latency. The latency towards them actually reading the message and replying to you is also low. But for example, the latency to when they book a call can, like I said, be like 2 months. Also, another reason could be because you just have to send more follow-ups and you don't send them all at once. So, things like that. And that is having an influence. And as well, when you have a test and you see like one test worked like worse than another one, then you can implement that or interpret that as feedback. That you now saw, okay, this test like worked better than the last one, and what did I change? You know exactly what you changed, and then this version, like this variable that I just changed, maybe a video, maybe a certain messaging thing, maybe something on your account, is helping a lot. So I'm going to keep it to like have a high appointment booking rate in the future, right? And you want to do that until you get to the first KPI. And as soon as you're there, you start shuffling with the variables responsible for just positive reply rate. then you start shuffling with these variables, and then finally just the appointment booking rate variables, right? And what I mean by dial in from top to bottom is you want to start with media seen rate as opposed to Calendly sent rate. And the reason why you want to do this is because for a test to actually show a valid result, you need to make sure that you actually have enough data. And when you want to test your appointment booking rate, for example, you need to have lots of people actually having given you like a positive reply, or you need to have lots of people that you sent a Calendly link to, right? But for example, the amount of people that you need to reach out to just establish a media seen rate is way lower. After 100 people, you know pretty well how high your media seen rate is, because for like if it's like 60% or 50%, it doesn't matter that much. If your appointment booking rate is 0% or 10%, it matters a lot, right? So you need to basically wait, or like you need to run higher volumes to see if the later metrics are actually valid, and you will get more validity when you have a higher Calendly send rate, because you just get more people to that stage, if that makes sense. It's very deep right now, and to be honest, it goes a bit like beyond 15 minutes, but I just want to make sure that you actually know exactly what's happening here, and these parts are really, really important. Like it's very crucial that like you understand this if you want to try it yourself and actually build such a system. And yeah, that's basically everything that you need to do. You just need to keep shuffling these variables. You need to be very patient. You need to make sure that you're not changing anything else for each test, and that you're just keeping the volume consistent, and yeah, that nothing is actually breaking. And you like sometimes it maybe just take like 9 tests in a row to see that it's working, right? And as soon as you have established like these appointment booking rates, positive reply rate, Calendly send rate, media seen rate, etc., when you have done this and you know your appointment booking rate is good, then it's actually time to scale. And this is the fun part, and this is also way easier, and it goes way faster than establishing this, because the reason why you cannot build an appointment booking system from right now from like today, like overnight basically, is because it just takes some time, maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, to establish this appointment booking rate, right? Sure, when you have done something in the same niche, it's basically the same offer. You can copy a lot of things and make it like way quicker to work. But when you're trying this for like the first time and you have nobody that you can copy from or no other model, then it's going to be way harder to actually like do the test, and it's just going to take longer. Scaling goes way quicker, and it's actually way easier, because when you have an appointment booking rate, this appointment booking rate is a weapon, because all you need to do at this point, when you have a working system, you just need to duplicate it as often as you want, and you get as many appointments as you want, as long as everything else stays the same. And the only thing that could be changing is literally like the rules on social media, or like the certain email deliverability rule. This is the only thing that can change from today to tomorrow that's going to break it down. Of course, your offer could start having worse resonance with the market over time, because people are looking into something else. But this is very slow and very unlikely to happen. And sure, you can maybe do some maintenance things, but if we just ignore that the market is slowly shifting, or that there could be something where emails are just being turned off randomly, you just have a system that's going to book your appointments forever. Right? And this is really powerful. So the only thing you need to do now is you just need to increase the volume until you are at capacity in terms of how many calls you can handle. So let's say in your company there's just yourself and 2 sales reps, and actually you don't want to be taking these calls, so you just have 2 sales reps because you want to work on operations or some other things, or hiring, right? So you have 2 sales reps, and these 2 sales reps can maybe take like 8 calls per day. Let's be conservative and say 6 calls per day, which will mean like 12 calls per day in total. And then per week, that's 60 calls, right? Or let's say they work on Saturdays as well. Let's say like 72 calls, something like that. And per month, like that times 4 would be like 280 calls, right? So that's like the capacity. And then when you know that, it's literally just, okay, how many calls do I want? I want to have 200. Let me actually do this right now, just so you see how it would actually look like in practice. So you want to get like this many calls per month, and you know that you have like a 3% appointment booking rate. So you're just into like 3%. And then you know, okay, I just need to find a way to send 9,500 messages per day. And you're probably going to think, damn, like Frederick, you're crazy. I'm not going to send that many messages. The point is, you don't need to do this on your own. And sometimes, for example, with cold email, nobody needs to do it at all because you can automate it, right? So what you want to do at this point is you just want to duplicate the process until you get to the volume that's necessary to get to your capacity. So you get more accounts, whether it's like email accounts or social media accounts, because they just have limits. Like if you send 5,000 messages from one Instagram account, is probably going to get banned in the evening when you started it like in the morning, right? So you want to make sure this is not happening. And sorry, by the way, for me getting red on the video, but I think it's more important that I talk about this than looking like more green on the video. But yeah, like you want to have more accounts, more volume per account if it's possible and stays within the limits, because when you go beyond the limits, then you can say bye-bye to your appointment booking rate and you need to use different accounts to get back to that, right? Then you want to reach out to more leads, basically. You want to find a way that you can get more leads. And then it's just about having more executors for the process. So people that send the emails, people that source the leads, or like people that manage the softwares, whatever is necessary to just make sure the volume is being sent. Each and every part of this, now that you have this, can be outsourced because you know exactly what you're doing. And now you just need to document exactly what's happening there to actually do these outreaches. You want to document that process. And when you have everything of that, you have it in Google Documents, you have like video walkthroughs where people can see, okay, like this is exactly, you need to click on this button, then you need to send that message, you copy paste this exact text to here and everything like that. Because this is how you send the video. You're now able to do everything of this because you have the appointment booking rate and you have the expertise that actually gives you the leverage in actually doing this, right? And once you have this, you basically just want to get people on board if it's necessary. And what you want to do then is you also want to give them an incentive-based salary, right? Because if you're paying someone 10K a month to send you messages, why wouldn't they actually just do nothing? Like, of course they will lose their job, but they will have like 1 month where they will just make 10K without doing anything. So what you want to do is you want to incentivize them that they get paid whenever a call is being booked or whenever a call is being closed. How do you want to do that? You just want to make sure these people that these people have an incentive to do your business as many good as they can, which is probably booking calls and making sure the leads are high quality so you can close the deals as well. And the least important thing is actually having fairly talented people. So as soon as you have a process that shows like, hey mate, here's exactly what you need to do, and the mate is being paid per performance, so paid per how many calls you book. Basically you saying, hey mate, I'm going to pay you whatever amount of dollars per call that you book. Here's exactly how you do it. The guy's just going to like book you as many calls as he can, right? Or she, whatever. And like they don't need to be that talented. Of course it's going to help, but it's way more important that you just have this. And a lot of people tend to like blame their team or something that they're not doing the work properly. But when you have something like this, even like someone fairly stupid or unskilled could execute on that process because you just have it documented and you know how it works. And the last thing that was going to limit how many calls you can actually book is literally just the size of the market. So if you have like a small niche that just consists of like 10,000 people, of course you can send 10,000 outreaches per month because there's not an entire niche popping up every month, if that makes sense, right? But if your niche is like 100,000 people or maybe 1 million people, you can send out like 10,000 outreaches for like 100 months straight, which I think is like 8 years or something, right? And until then, the niche is going to grow again. And of course, you can also use different things apart from that to book you that many calls. But to be honest, let's say when you reach out to 1,000 people and you got 300 bookings and you made some money, you're probably at a point where you could also start with paid ads or inbound like content, whatever, right? So yeah, just to quickly recap on this video, we basically just covered in total within less than 20 minutes basically, or like 25 minutes, how to book a lot of calls every single month predictably. What you need to do is have high volume, high appointment booking rate. It's way easier to get the volume right because you can just pay people to do it and show them how to do it and do like some training with them, right? Way harder it is to actually get the appointment booking rate, and you basically like segment the process, see, okay, this part is this is how you need to do that. These are the stages, these are the variables that we have. these are the sub-conversion rates and their KPIs, and this is what we need to change to actually get them there. And then you just figure it out what variables you need to use, and you just iterate on your video, you try saying something else, whatever, to actually do that, right? So now you basically know what to do. So you now have two options. You can either just go out and do it and follow these tutorials, and there are probably going to be some other people that talk about this on YouTube, but to be honest, there are not that many people that can tell you like what variable is going to help you get your positive reply rate. So that's one thing that you can do. And another thing, and yeah, I'm literally just going to try and tell you something. You don't need to do it if you want to try it on your own. But if you want this to work way quicker without you actually needing to send the messages, without needing to figure out all these things, without needing to set up accounts, warm up accounts, figure out deliverability, you can literally just go to me and my team and book a call with us, and we can do all of this process for you. So literally, we just need to look at your process, see what you're doing, how you're actually like delivering for your clients, because that's necessary when you reach out to people to show that to them, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't require that even. And as soon as we know that, all you need to do is literally just take the calls that you got booked, right? And it's also on a pay on performance basis. So the more calls, the more you actually need to pay. If we don't book your calls, then you don't need to pay for these calls because there aren't any calls, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, that's basically the entire process. Whether you want to do this or not, I'm going to attach a link below this video where you can schedule a call. If you don't want to do this, it's perfectly fine. I'm not pressuring you on anything. You can try this out on your own, and it does work. It's going to take a few months, maybe some bit longer, depending on how much you need to test. And this is literally the entire process. So if you have any other questions, you can put them into the comments. I'm probably going to make other videos on smaller parts of this process as well, just because it's probably something that a lot of agency owners are struggling with from my experience and from the people that I'm talking to. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.